What is there to be said about Pulp Fiction that hasn't been said already?
Pulp Fiction? Yeah, I saw it on the airplane. It's cute. It's a 30-minute film about a group of friends who like cheeseburgers dancing in the Bible.
Yeah, that about sums it up. Pulp Fiction can be categorized as a film by film nerds for film nerds. An exquisite blend of the artsy and the fartsy. Beautiful cinematography, charming and witty dialogue, and non-linear storytelling combine to form what many consider to be Tarantino's masterpiece. It's not, but I digress. In the eyes of those singing its praises, Pulp Fiction can do no wrong, and to offer an opinion to the contrary is tantamount to blasphemy. But to them, I simply pose one question and one question alone. What is Pulp Fiction about? But before I get into all of that, I would like to lay out a timeline of the film in chronological order because Tarantino sure as hell didn't do that, so I guess someone has to. The earliest moment in the film is Vince and Jules in the car. Royale with cheese and all that. Actually, that's not true. The first event of the film is a scene about the watch in the butt, but that's a more traditional flashback, so it's going to be lumped in with the butch section later. Anyway, Royale with cheese. Then we go into the apartment, tasty burger and so on. Shooting, then we meet the wolf. The wolf does what the wolf does best, and Vince and Jules get some breakfast. Guns. Jules goes out to walk the earth. But before that, he returns the briefcase to Marcellus Wallace and we meet Butch. $5 milkshake, dancing, what's that in my pocket? Overdose, adrenaline shot, Marcellus doesn't need to know about this. Flashback to the butt watch, Butch wins his fight, Butch loses the butt watch, Butch goes to get the butt watch. Butch shoots Vince. Marcellus shoots Butch, Butch punches Marcellus, Gimp in a box, samurai sword, Marcellus shoots Zed.
Zed's dead.
Okay, now that we've got that established, let's get back to that burning question. What is Pulp Fiction about? Is it a film about gangsters? I mean, it's a film with a lot of gangsters in it, but I wouldn't say that it's a film about gangsters. Vince and Jules are about as close as we get to the protagonists of the film. And these two are gangsters. Case closed, it's a film about gangsters. But what about Butch? He's in a significant portion of the film, and he's not a gangster. Besides that, even though Vince and Jules are gangsters, they spend very little of the runtime of the film doing gangster things. So I think that saying it's about gangsters is a bit of a stretch. Okay, so it's a film about redemption. Is it? Is it really? I mean, we close on Jules' speech about walking the earth, but to say that such a thing is a through line through the film is, again, a bit of a stretch. Redemption isn't really something that is touched upon or alluded to anywhere in the preceding runtime of Pulp Fiction, so I would hardly categorize it as the focal point of the film. Honor. It's gotta be about honor. Look, a katana. Butch's story is about honor, sure. But the rest of the film? Again, it's a stretch. I could go on like this, but you get the point. A film this good should have a deeper theme to it. Some steak to go with all of that sizzle. Because I assure you, Pulp Fiction is the sizzlingest sizzler that ever sizzled. But for all of that substantial sizzle, the film has very little steak. And as such, I would make the claim that Pulp Fiction is a film about nothing. That does not make it a bad film, by any means. I would have to be an absolute lunatic to say that Pulp Fiction is a bad film, because it's not. It's a great film. It's shot beautifully, written beautifully.
You want to rob banks?
I'm not saying I want to rob banks, I'm just illustrating that if we did, it'd be easier than what we've been doing.
It's just in general beautiful. But all of that beauty isn't really saying anything. Rather, the beauty is in service of tone rather than theme or plot. Pulp Fiction isn't really concerned with what is happening or why it's happening, but more with how it's happening.
Example.
This conversation between Vince and Jules. The two hitmen are essentially talking about nothing. Vince is talking about hash bars, then cheeseburgers, then foot massages. None of these topics are pertinent to the plot at hand, but these are some of the most memorable moments in the film. Moving on to Jackrabbit Slims, we have more of the same. We are reasonably deep into the film at this point. The only exposition that we have is that Vince and Jules work for a gangster named Marcellus Wallace, and that Mr. Wallace threw a guy named Tony Rocky Horror out of a window. Up to this point, there has been so much sizzle for such a minuscule amount of steak, but that really doesn't matter. We forget our hunger for plot because we are so full on tone alone. We are so ensorcelled by the exquisite cinematography, the combination of lighting and shot composition that make every frame a work of art in and of itself. We're hypnotized by the retro soundtrack that is playing through the majority of the film, and the dialogue that is itself musical in a way. Listen to these lines and how they're delivered.
No. I do believe Marcellus, my husband, your boss, told you to take me out and do whatever I wanted.
You is normal face, normal legs, normal hips, normal ass, but with a big, perfectly round pot belly.
The dialogue in this film has a musicality about it, a cadence that takes precedence over what is actually being said and lets our focus drift, paying less regard to what is being said and allowing us to just enjoy how it's being said. Now let's look at the Butch story. This portion of the film relies less on hypnotic dialogue and more on absurdity. I mean, look how it starts. A minutes-long dialogue about watches, war, and sphincters. And it doesn't get more normal from there. Butch's mad dash for the timepiece culminates in him being locked in a sex dungeon and killing a redneck with a katana. That sentence alone proves my point about absurdity. But again, that doesn't really matter. It's not what happens, it's how it happens. The slow creep through the apartment, the realization that there is a hitman waiting for him, the choosing of the weapon and the utilization of it. These things are not about the plot, they are about the tone. So much so that we forget the absurdity of what is happening and simply revel in how cool it is. Finally, let's look at the body situation. Literally all that happens here is that Vince, Jules, and the wolf hide a body, but we get so much more out of it than simply the story that is being told. We get the cool guys from the start of the film being knocked down a peg and becoming a couple of dorks. We get the rise of a new cool guy, the coolest of guys in fact, and we watch as he goes about his work. But more than that, we get a neat little way to bring everything back around, to take us right back where we started. Pulp Fiction is the perfect cinematic representation of the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. The entire structure of the film is circular. We end up where we started, but that isn't important. The destination isn't the focal point here, the journey is. What is happening is less important than how it is happening, and that banality is part of what makes the film so interesting. These people are gangsters, or at least gangster adjacent. Their lives should be the exact opposite of banal, but besides brief moments of criminality, the characters in Pulp Fiction are just like the rest of us. Boring as hell. They talk about cheeseburgers and foot rubs. They drink $5 shakes and win dance contests. They eat Pop-Tarts and go to diners. For the most part, these people are nothing to write home about. Even the stories themselves are nothing burgers in a vacuum, but each of these nothing burgers combined form something that is greater than the sum of its parts. Each story leaves a trail of breadcrumbs in its wake, breadcrumbs that we follow and follow until at last we arrive at our destination. But when we get there, it's not what we expected. In fact, our destination is somewhere that we've been before. We have gone on a journey through the criminal underbelly of Los Angeles in the 90s. And in the end, we got nowhere and have accomplished nothing narratively. But that's the point of the film. There's no thrilling conclusion, no moral pontification, no meaningful resolution of any kind. But we remember the burgers. We remember the milkshake. We remember the dancing and the diner and how all of those things made us feel. Because from the perspective of this film, that feeling is what is important. Pulp Fiction doesn't care about meaning. At least, not in the traditional sense. Meaning is the steak, but Pulp Fiction cares about the sizzle. It cares about the style, the cadence, the flow, the feel. It is so concerned with how it is saying things, that it doesn't need to concern itself with what it is saying. I'm amenable to the opinion that Pulp Fiction is a perfect film. Not the perfect film, mind you, but a perfect film. Quibbling over the distinction between these two things is something for another time. But suffice to say that Pulp Fiction is at least a great film. Pulp Fiction is a beautiful film, a smart film. It is a film that is certainly worthy of all the praise it has accrued throughout the years. But at the end of the day, my point still stands. It's a film about nothing.